I really liked the live action Snow White, and I don't care if I lose all credibility by saying I thought it was a smart movie, and it's another one where its reputation preceded it, and everyone was so hell-bent on disliking it before it even came out.
Welcome to this
Merry New Year!
episode of the Maza's Musings podcast. We hope that you had a great holiday season and a great New Year's. And our episodes are going to focus a lot on looking back at the year that was, but also making sure that we take time to look forward into the future and the things that we have to look forward to. And we're going to kick off 2026 with Dan Quiterio, who you've heard on this podcast before, talking about Disney, but he is also very much a film enthusiast. He's also a stage aficionado, especially living in New York City. He has experienced a lot of stage productions, a lot of Broadway, a lot of off-Broadway, but today's discussion is going to focus on film. Dan has seen now 1,000 movies in the movie theater. This does not include things that he may have watched at home. These are all in-theater movies. And we talk with him to kind of take a look back at that journey, which actually came full circle for him. And we'll also talk about some of the other things that he's done now. So Dan and I just have a great time talking about some movies. And of course, we do talk some Disney. He helps me out with this week's Maza's Mickey Minute, which turned out to be much longer than a minute. So we'll get to all of that. But before we get to anything else, we have to kick off the new year with a laugh. So here's Meghan with her Cuckoo Bananas joke of the week.
And now it's time for Meghan's
Cuckoo bananas joke. Merry Christmas Eve.
As you can tell, we're recording a few jokes all at the same time. So, I guess, Meghan, I hope that you have a joke ready.
Of course I do.
Of course you do. All right, let's hear it.
Where does a snowman keep his money? Or her?
I don't know. Where does a snowman keep his or her money?
In a snowbank, snowbank, snowbank. In a snowbank, snowbank, snowbank.
Another good one. All righty. Say goodbye.
Bye-bye. Another joke reported by Meghan Maza in the news.
All right, well, Dan Quiterio is joining me today, and this is, I don't know, what day is it? We're in that weird space between Christmas and New Year's when everything kind of blends together. But we're at some point before New Year's. So happy New Year to everybody who's going to be listening to this on Friday, which is, I think the day after New Year's. So it'll be officially 2026 when people are listening to this. So, I am really glad that Dan was able to join me. We kind of had to massage some schedules and such, but we are going to be talking about some movies, and Dan's got some experiences and maybe even a hot take or two to share with us. Dan's, of course, he can explain it better than I can, but we've talked a little bit. Dan's got a history and professional background in media, and he's a film enthusiast. He's also a stage aficionado, and obviously a unashamed Disney adult. So he's checking a lot of boxes here. But for those who are unfamiliar, maybe newer to the podcast, Dan, here's a chance to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my previous appearances were, I think, all Disney related. So this is a little bit of a departure, but it shows a different side of my interests. Like you said, I'm a big film buff. as well as theater buff, though we're not going to be talking about theater today. My professional background is in marketing. I'm a social media marketer, and most of my experience has been in the entertainment and media space. I've worked for Paramount. I've worked within the PBS system. I've had NBC Universal as clients. So I've kind of been all over the map, mostly on the TV and streaming side of things, but also a big lover of film and have been for 20 plus years. And so, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that.
All right. So before we get into that, Dan was also gracious enough to help me with this week's Maza's Mickey Minute, where we will be looking into the future a little bit, into 2026 and some of the things specifically with Walt Disney World. I know that Dan is also a big fan, perhaps even more so, of Disneyland, but
yeah,
given I don't have any Disneyland trips on the horizon and being on the East Coast, Disney World tends to be my playground. That's what I'm focusing on, and this is my show. So, all right. So here we go.
Donald, wake up! It's showtime! Don't forget the orchestra!
Ah, there you are. And just in time.
Mom says there's even more magical stuff now.
For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the doors.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness. And here we go!
All right, Dan. We're going to do a little kind of a word association game here. I'm looking for, basically, I've got a list of some of the changes or things that are coming to Walt Disney World in 2026. And I just want, in a word or a few words, your reaction to these things. Some of these things I'm a little more familiar with in terms of the news than others. Mm-hmm. But we'll go through this and kind of get a feel as to how we're feeling about some of these things coming to Walt Disney World. Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right. So first one, Frozen Ever After is getting its new audio animatronics. The update is going to be ready February 2026. What say you?
Indifferent. I thought the ride was fine, like the couple times I've been on it, so I'm not really sure what they're going to do with it to enhance it. It looked good to me, but I don't know if it's going to be noticeable, or at least to me.
I don't think, I would say that I'm in a similar mindset. I don't think that it's that they're going to, I forget what park it is. It might be Hong Kong or one of the other parks. They have a different animatronic system that doesn't have the projection faces, and so essentially they're going to update it so that it more reflects the other one, which I guess there have been problems with the functioning of the projections as well. Okay. So from a functionality standpoint, sure, I guess it's great, but I don't think it's going to make a major difference in my enjoyment of the ride, or whether or not Meghan is excited to see Anna, Elsa, and Olaf. So
yeah, same. I think people were talking about it, or like Disney was talking about it, like these animatronics are super antiquated, and I thought the facial projection was like the future. I didn't realize it was already go figure. But I think people are still, I never got to experience it when it was Maelstrom, but I think a lot of people are still reeling over that, and that's obviously a much more dramatic change than this. Yeah. So I don't think that this is going to be a huge deal for most people, but we'll see.
I think I'm surprised at the number of people who are super excited about this. They're like, oh, finally this is happening. I'm just like, okay. If that's what makes you happy. All right. So the next one is they're going to reopen Big Thunder Mountain Railroad with quote unquote new magic.
Okay. The word for me here is finally, and because it has been closed for a while, but even before it was closed down. I think in 2024 it was. I feel like the last few times I've been, it was temporarily closed. So I have not been able to do this ride for a long time. Every single time I go, it's shut down for one reason or another. So I'm happy it'll finally come back so I can experience it. It's been so long that I don't remember it that well. So whatever this new magic is, I'm sure it will be really impressive and great. But I don't know if it's going to like trigger anything in my mind that, oh, like I miss it the way it was before, or this is so much better. I think I'm sure it'll be fantastic, and just looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm intrigued because I'm wondering if this is going to be, and I've only seen videos of it. You know, they do something a little bit different in Disneyland with the ride, with like, I guess, projections in the tunnel when you're going up when you're climbing and things like that.
I'm vaguely remembering this, but even in Disneyland, like, I feel like it's been temporarily closed the last couple of times. Yeah, again, it's one of those things. I had this streak for a while too, where every time I would go to either the Anaheim or Orlando parks, Space Mountain would be closed, just like that day or for that month or whatever. And so I don't know. I bring bad luck with me, I guess, to some of these rides.
Yeah, and the other thing, they showed pictures, or the different websites and social media was showing track replacement as well. So I'm wondering if there's how that's going to impact the ride, because kind of a little bit of the jerkiness of it and everything is part of its charm. So I hope that isn't something that goes away. I don't want a smooth riding Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
I don't think the pioneers had smooth trails back in those days. It's supposed to be Frontierland. I agree with you. I want to feel a little damaged by the end of the ride.
All right. So Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin will reopen in the spring with new gameplay and character. Now, I haven't heard about the new character, but the new gameplay is, it seems like, as opposed to them being the guns being attached to the vehicle, it's going to be more free motion.
Yeah. It's funny because right before this call, you told me we'd be talking about this, and I thought, I'm an easy Disney critic. I'm going to say wonderful for everything. But my word for this one is it's probably another indifferent, and it's only because I'm kind of over these game rides. There's just a lot of them, or at least it seems to me like a lot of them, between this and Toy Story Mania. And Disneyland has I forgot what it's called, but the Spider-Man ride, which is fun, but it's a heck of a workout. It really hurts your arms after a while. And I don't know, sometimes I just want to go on a ride and let it entertain me without me having to do a whole lot of work and feel like I'm burning a ton of calories. But yeah, it's like I'll do it. I'm sure it'll be fine.
This one for me is a finally, because it feels like I never felt like I was able to have a ton of fun when you have a game that requires that kind of interaction. It's just like, I don't even know what I'm actually even shooting at right now. How do people do this? There were times where I've learned to kind of like let it go, but there are times where the competitiveness in me would come out, and I'd be like, how the hell do I do this? How do I win this game?
I know. And you're pushing so hard and you're shooting so fast and whatnot. And then you see your final score and you're thinking, and then the other, at least this is my experience, the other person in the car scored like 30,000 better than I did. Right. How could I have done any better? I don't understand the logic here. It's those sorts of games, game rides, if you will, make me feel like a big loser at the end of it. Maybe that's what my problem is with these rides.
All right, so I'm gonna skip over a couple of these, because a couple of these are more kid oriented, and you being a childless Disney adult, it may not connect with you as much. But so I'm gonna skip ahead to the Magic of Disney Animation opening in the summer of 2026 at Disney's Hollywood Studios.
You're gonna have to remind me what this one is. I don't know if I've heard.
So yeah, I'm the thing is, most of what I've read about this is pretty cryptic, but like I haven't seen a lot of details. I was almost hoping that you would know a little bit more than I. But yeah, it's basically it's going to be highlighting and celebrating more of like the history of Disney animation. It's going to it's basically building off of what was the thing that they did, the little special 10-minute short that they did that had all of the different characters.
Yeah, Once Upon a
Yes.
Studio.
So it's kind of like in that kind of spirit, celebrating the breadth of Disney animation, and what exactly is going to be there, I haven't seen a lot of detail on. So I was actually hoping that maybe you'd seen something, and being the media aficionado that you are, that you would have come across something that would help a little bit.
I just before this call, I was refreshing myself on some of these changes. So I was watching this 14-minute YouTube video, and if I'm not mistaken, I think this is one where they're going to take the original, or one of the earlier animation buildings, and basically doing what you're saying, like creating an experience out of it. And it would include like I think it's like an animation class that you could take, that kind of thing. In which case I'm all for it. I think it's Disney kind of returning to its roots and in the parks. So, I love the rides. I love the shows like everybody else, but this is something that can help us to, if it is what I'm thinking, sort of deepen our love and appreciation even more. When I was at Walt Disney World the last time, I spent a lot of time in the, I'm forgetting what it's called. So it's like that gallery space that takes you into like Disney's history. You know what I'm talking about? Like the Walt Disney Archives or whatever. But I basically read like every single plaque. I looked at every single thing. I'm really into Disney history, and I feel like this new change is kind of going to play into that a little bit by bringing us back to those glory days in a way, and maybe lifting the hood of the car a little bit so we can see how things are done. And in theory, that will help us to appreciate the rides and the attractions even more, because we know kind of what the impetus was and how it all came to be.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this, but I would also say, based on what we both seem to have understanding of this being, I'm also a little confused. Okay. I think that this continues to show that Disney's still not quite sure what to do with Hollywood studios. What the next generation of Hollywood studios is going to look like. And I feel like they're trying to appease a lot of people with this, and there's been a disconnect in what it is. And I was kind of reading it as, okay, the original Walt Disney Studios or Hollywood Studios was bringing you into what it's like to be on a movie set. And that was the original plan. And they've been shifting away from inserting you into the movie set to inserting you into the movie itself. And that with these immersive lands, like they're like Galaxy's Edge, coming up with the Monstropolis, things like that. So it felt like that was the shift to that. But then they're throwing this, they're making changes to the animation courtyard, and they're doing this kind of thing that is still kind of throwing back. So it's just like, I think that I'm going to really appreciate this, but when you're looking at it from a continuity of the park standpoint, it's still a little bit confusing.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge with Hollywood studios, because it's like this catch-all land, or at least that's kind of how I've interpreted it. You're right. I remember going when it was MGM Studios, and you're on this back lot and you're kind of into the world of movie making. And now you're immersed in like Toy Story and Star Wars, and all of that is fun. But Disney's history is is movies. So
Mhm.
that's like the land where you kind of just like, if you don't know where else to put it, you kind of throw it there. Like that's how I've kind of interpreted it. So it does become a jumbled mess after a while. I still enjoy myself when I go. And hopefully they can kind of return to form a little bit with this change, and maybe it will help inspire some other things. I know with I don't know if you're going to mention this, but with Animal Kingdom bringing like the whole Encanto area, I think there's been some question of what does that have to do with animals. In that 14-minute video, I learned a little bit more about how it actually does dive into the animal piece of it, so it makes sense. But I think there's this starting point, it seems, with the Imagineers where they're thinking we have this great piece of IP that people really love, and we have to integrate it somewhere. And then they kind of maybe shoehorn how to get the theme out of it so that it fits within that world. But then if you do that a little too much, it can feel really disjointed and disconnected. So I have faith in them, though, that everything is with Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom is going to work out. We'll see.
All right. So the next one is the Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets is going to come to Hollywood Studios. Speaking of things that feel a little disjointed.
Yeah. My word for this one is excited, but also cautiously optimistic. I think this ride makes sense for it makes more sense for the Muppets than for Aerosmith. I mean, obviously Rock and Roller Coaster Aerosmith makes sense, but why Aerosmith? I don't know what the history is there. I'm sure people watching and listening could know some of that history and can comment and tell us. But otherwise, I'm fine with Aerosmith, that theming going away. I think the Electric Mayhem makes a lot of sense. I'm one who really loved that Electric Mayhem Disney Plus series. I thought it was really good. I went in with a lot of reservations, but thought it was great. So the Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem seem to be having this moment, and this ride is the next step in that trajectory for them. So we'll see. I think I suspect that the pre-show is going to be the thing that hopefully that maybe makes this ride a little bit in terms of the theming. I don't know that there's a lot of space for a substantial pre-show for this, but I'm excited to see what they do. I think it'll be good. I think there's still going to be naysayers and people upset about Muppet Vision 3D and this serving as an inadequate replacement, if you will. But I'm glad to see that they're keeping the Muppets in some shape or form.
Yeah, me too. I would say also excited. I thought that this was a really it fits, especially it's a little bit of a chaotic ride, and I've always kind of said the Muppets are best when they're thriving in chaos, so it fits from that perspective. I can see, especially with the sound system and everything, Animal having a big part in this. And I think that a lot of the pushback about this has nothing to do with this, and it has a lot to do with, like you said, Muppet Vision 3D. But when you're looking at this from this perspective, you're absolutely right. It did Aerosmith. I don't know what I even looked into it a little bit and couldn't find what the actual connection was. I thought, okay, maybe Disney owned like the record label that they were with, and that wasn't the case. And it was just always kind of a weird marriage. I liked the ride. I thought that it was a little bit of a clever theming, but it could have, whether it was Aerosmith or whoever, it would have been the same ride. Exactly. Aerosmith wasn't really attached to this as much as everything else, but so I'm excited to see what they do with this.
I agree.
It feels a lot more natural than people are letting it on to feel, and it's a lot of anger that is misplaced, I think.
Yeah, that's going to always happen with Disney fans. Everyone wants everything to be how it was when they were a kid growing up, going to the parks. But you know, like as Walt famously said, as long as there's imagination, these parks will never be completed.
Right.
And there's finite space. So actually, that's not true in Disney World. They're only using a third, if I recall correctly, a third of all the land that they have for the parks. I believe it was on the tour I took the last time I was there. Was a third of the land that's currently occupied is being used by the parks. A third is for conservation, will never be built upon, and then the other third is available for development. So if you think about the size of all 4 Disney parks combined, they could do that times 2. So there is
Right.
still a lot more room. I don't know about Hollywood Studios specifically in that surrounding area, but yeah, I'm excited for these changes.
Yeah, and I mean, some of what we're spending a lot more time than than I anticipated on this, but you know,
Disney.
all of the land may be available to be developed, but how much sense does it make? Like, is there enough connectivity between these areas to make it make sense too? Because it's a vast area, so people already complain about how long it takes to get from X resort to Animal Kingdom as it is. So I don't know.
It's
So
one of the reasons I love Disneyland. It's compact, it's easy, but we digress.
all right. So well, I'm just gonna skip to the last one here. Soarin' Across America, opening in Epcot, summer of 2026.
Soarin' is my favorite ride. So I don't have they done Soarin' Across America before? I know they've done different versions, California and whatnot.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've never seen Soarin' Across America, so I don't know if they've ever done it previously, but I've never experienced it.
I have high hopes for it. I mean, Soarin' Across the World is such a great ride and super immersive. The sense and the sights and everything, and they've definitely improved things in terms of the projection. Like the Eiffel Tower is no longer leaning, so that's always a plus. So I have to imagine they're going to take all that technology, apply it to this one, and being focused purely on just America, I think will give us a lot more to experience, because there's only 5 or 6 different areas of the world that you see with Soarin' Across the World. This way you can kind of immerse yourself into, in theory anyway, some different parts of the country a little bit more and see the real breadth of the nation. I've been lucky enough to travel throughout the US quite a bit. Not everyone has. So if you're stuck in one area, you may not realize that there are mountains or lakes or oceans or big cities. It's all so vast, and I think this will encapsulate all of that. So it will be a great way to travel without actually leaving a room.
Yeah, no, I guess that's fair. I was going to say disappointed because, Soarin' Around the World to me kind of fits with Epcot and with the World Showcase. And the whole idea is, a bit more of discovery and going outside of, and so when it's singularly focused on America, I'm kind of just like, we've got enough America everywhere else in America, like
Sure.
this is an opportunity to, but you're absolutely right that it is such a broad nation, and there with so many different things to see within it in and of itself that people don't normally get to see. It is a fair point. I just, to me, it was just like it almost feels like that would be better suited simply for Disneyland, whereas at Epcot, keeping it more of a global focus, would make more sense.
Do we know if it's a permanent change?
I don't think it's a permanent change. No.
Okay.
But I mean, there are plenty of people now. I'm going to go plenty of times and such, but when it's those people who have that maybe once in a lifetime or even once in a decade trip, it's I don't know.
Well, one thing I will mention, and I assume this is why they're doing this. Next year is the 250th anniversary of the United States.
Yeah, fair.
So my guess is that this is going to be just for the 1 year, and then they switch back. We'll see. And one great thing about these sorts of things is for people who do make frequent visits to the parks, it gives them something new to experience.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's a lot of people who come with certain expectations who maybe it's their first trip or their only trip, and they kind of want to see whatever the classic thing is. But I feel like you have to set a certain expectation for yourself when you're going to the parks, that not everything is going to be exactly as you may want it to be. That's the thing that keeps people coming back.
No, yeah. I think, really the biggest thing is that with such a global focus of Epcot, that it just seems to make more sense to have, a ride that has a more global theme. But you're bringing up some great points. I hadn't even thought about the 250th, so that it probably is exactly why this is happening. And so I guess as we're talking it out, it's making more and more sense to me. So it's not anything that I was, going to get angry about. It was just like, oh, okay, well, couldn't they have just done that at Disneyland and left Epcot alone? But,
it gives frequent park goers a little bit of social currency too, because it's like a limited edition thing that you get to collect. Like you can say, oh, I was there when they did Soarin' Across America for that 1 year or whatever it was. So you get to hold on to that, and that won't leave you.
All right. Well, this was, I guess it was more like the Maza's Mickey half an hour. I really anticipated this was going to be a lot more rapid fire, but I should have known that it was us. So
not when you're talking Disney. No.
Well, I can't do any more damage around this popsicle stand.
So long, partner.
See you real soon.
We're going to get into our main topic now. And Dan, you recently told me that you had just finished watching your 1000th movie.
In a theater.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking to a guy who's probably seen over the course of his life maybe 50 movies in the theater. So the 1,000 kind of boggles my mind.
It's there's a lot of conversation now around are movie theaters dead and all of that, and I don't know the answers to that. I think if you want to really dig deep into what's going on with Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery and what that merger or acquisition might mean for theater going, there's a lot of think pieces and podcasts and whatnot about that. So we don't have to go into that. But I do think it was kind of a special thing for me because I love going to the movies. So the fact that my 1000th movie in a theater kind of hit right in the middle of this broader conversation that's happening, to me kind of meant something special. But to kind of backtrack a little bit, whenever I tell people I'm about to see or I just saw my 1000th film in a theater, the question that everyone always asks is, how do you know? Well, obviously, I have a list. Obviously, I'm not just making this up. I try not to be a jerk about it, but clearly, I'm a list guy. I'm very type A in that way. I have lists of everything, most things that I've seen or done or whatnot. And I think it was maybe 5 movies in, I started keeping a list of all the movies that I saw. And the very first movie I ever saw, I was that 8, maybe 8 or 9 years old. I think it was 9, actually. It was Home Alone when it came out in 1990. And fast forward 30, 40 years, and I'm looking at my list and I see I'm on movie number 995. So the 1000th is quickly approaching, and it occurs to me, my 1000th movie, whatever it is, it has to be something special. It can't just be some random movie. But how do you make that happen? How do you I can't determine what's going to be in the theater. So soon later, after just a little bit of thinking, I realized, I'm a member of D23, as I'm sure a lot of the listeners are. Anyone who's not familiar, that's the official Disney fan club. D for Disney, 23 for 1923, the year of the company's founding. Everyone always asks me, why is it 23? I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir in terms of the listeners of this podcast. But in case you didn't know, that's why. And I'm a gold member, so I do partake in certain gold member events. And they have currently their On the Road series, where they are traveling Home Alone for its 35th anniversary around the country. And I had already bought a ticket to see it, and I haven't seen it since. I think I maybe seen it only like 2 or 3 times in my life, and not in the theater since that first time I saw it. So when I realized that this was coming up, this was a couple weeks ago, I thought, well, that's it. That's the perfect movie. That has to be my 1000th. My 1000th will also be my first. And so I kind of manipulated things a little bit to make sure that I didn't watch too few or too many movies leading up to that. It was like, I have to see one a week. It didn't go beyond like a month of that kind of planning, so it wasn't too arduous. But I was able to see the movie as my 1000th. It was at the SVA Theater here in New York City, where I live. And because it was a D23 event, they really blow it out. There's a lot of immersive things. It's anyone who's listening who's been to like the Rocky Horror Picture Show at midnight, one of those sorts of things. It wasn't quite as overblown as that, where you're throwing stuff at the screen or screaming. But there was some of that. Like there were moments where they're like, when he says this, we want to hear all of you shout that out in the theater. Usually I'm kind of a film purist. I don't want to see anyone's cell phones out when I'm at the theater. I'm one of those people. But this was one where my expectations were managed. I knew what I was going into. So there was a lot of shouting. There were like little packs that they give you with kazoos to play during the movie. And because I knew that this was all coming, it made it a little bit more special, I guess, and just enhanced the 1000th experience for me. So I'm just thrilled that I was able to have that be my 1000th movie. It made it a little bit more special. And the fact that I hadn't seen it in a long time also was cool, because it just reminded me of the movie. And then I went back and watched Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, which I don't know if I had ever seen that movie from start to finish before. But living in New York and being a huge lover of New York history and the sites, and I give tours of the city, that was also a really cool thing for me too, to see the city in kind of a starring role. So between those two movies, it's been a fun movie going month for me.
Now I gotta ask, having not seen it in a while, seeing Home Alone again, did it live up to the nostalgia for you?
That's a good question. Maybe a little bit. Like there's certain, it wasn't so much the movie, the moments from the movie itself that were nostalgic for me. It was more I remember when that movie came out in 1990 and just seeing the commercials for it, Kevin McAllister, he puts on the aftershave, the whole like screams and the camera thing. I remember those moments more than anything. So more than the movie itself, I remember the bits that they took out of the movie to use as promotional pieces. So when those would come up, it struck something within me, I guess. I forgot that he does that motion twice in the movie. So little things like that were cool. And I forgot that the entire movie was not just the booby traps. I had in mind, I thought that was the whole movie, but it's really just like the last 20 minutes of it. But it's earned when it happens, because there's a decent amount of story. It's, is it the greatest movie ever made? No, it's one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made, in my opinion. But there's a lot of some serious suspension of disbelief in order to allow you to enjoy it. How do they forget this kid? How all that stuff. And then when you see Home Alone 2, how did that happen again? They try to address it in fun ways, but it's one of those movies where you kind of just have to let all that wash away and just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I can honestly say I cannot remember the last time I actually watched that movie. I remember I was a kid. There was one of the few movies that we went and saw in the theaters. We didn't watch we didn't go to the movies very often when I was growing up. If we did, it was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And Home Alone was one of those movies. There are a few that kind of stick out in my mind from my childhood. The Lion King is one of them. Home Alone is another one. That was a big deal movie to go see. And of course, everybody was going to see it. It made, ungodly amounts of money. And so, but since then, I haven't had that like urge. I'm not one of these people who's been like, oh, I've got to watch Home Alone, every year, like some people are. I don't know why it just hasn't carried over for me. And maybe I do need to just like sit down and watch it again. But for me, I think sometimes it's just like there are other movies that are my must watches, and time just, especially as I get older, time just slips away, and the time to just sit there and watch something, truthfully, half the time when I have that time, I'm just like, I think I'd rather just go to bed.
or watch Muppets Christmas Carol, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm with you. I love Home Alone. Home Alone is the kind of movie that they don't really make anymore. There's like this, I don't know, this wholesomeness to it. But it's not a movie that I feel like I need to watch regularly. Like I said, I think I've only seen it 3 times total. And I kind of, that to me makes these movie going experiences, my first and my 1000th, a little bit more special too. You can go both ways about it. Like my favorite movie of all time is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which is this poster that's right here on the screen for anyone watching. And I've only seen it maybe 4, 5 times or so. Some people would argue if it's your favorite, then you can watch it over and over and over again and never get sick of it. For me, I want to kind of preserve the magic a little bit. I'm afraid it's going to look dull maybe over time, but teach their own. That's kind of how I feel about Home Alone too. It's been years. It probably will be years before I see it again, and I'll be happy when I do see it.
All right. So being a list person that you are, I'm sure that you have a list of what have been your best or favorite movies that you've seen this past year. And I'd imagine that you also have some of the ones that maybe weren't quite up to snuff. So do you have some things to share with us?
I'm still, every year, like I think a lot of people, I kind of compose my top 10 list. I haven't done it yet this year. There's a couple more that I'm hoping to see before the end of this calendar year. But right now, I would say probably my top 2 are Begonia and Sinners. Starting with Sinners, that's on everyone's top 10 list. It's a wonderful movie. It's great for a lot of reasons. Ryan Coogler he can't do any wrong. Every movie he makes becomes this huge box office juggernaut. And what I like about this one is that it's a completely original story. Not a big horror person, mostly because I don't care about jump scares. Like I'm more of a screenplay and a writing kind of person. That's what I love about this movie. It really is rooted in a really good, thoughtful story, so that when the horror does come out, it's so much more impactful. So to me, that was one of the top movies of the year. Begonia was a very pleasant surprise for me. Yorgos Lanthimos, who also did Poor Things, The Lobster, The Favorite, Killing of a Sacred Deer. He does a lot of, if for anyone who's not familiar with his work, a lot of quirky, off-kilter kind of stuff. And for me is really kind of a hit or miss. I either love or just really don't like at all what he does. This is one where as a marketing person, I'm looking at the trailer and I'm looking at the poster and I'm thinking, nothing about this appeals to me. I don't really want it. I don't know what it was that ultimately like got me to go see it in the theater. But I did see it and I was very pleasantly surprised. It's Emma Stone, who's kind of Yorgos's muse as of late. She just recently won her 2nd Oscar for Poor Things, another one of his movies. Jesse Plemons, who's one of the more underrated actors, I think, of our generation. She plays a high-powered CEO, and he plays a conspiracy theorist who thinks that she's an alien from outer space who's hell-bent on destroying the planet. There's if you haven't seen it, I can't really reveal anything. There's some fun twists, but it really messes with your head and in like your Yorgos Lanthimos style, very off kilter and unconventional. By the end of it, I couldn't decide right away if I liked the twist. because you're kind of he's such a great director in that he like almost forces you or guides you to be on like this person's team. And yes, I agree with this person. And then things might shift. And then you have to suddenly on a dime question, wait a minute, do I like this shift? Do I not? It's kind of challenging everything I thought I knew. But that's kind of what conspiracy theories can do, especially this day and age where there's, conspiracy theories abound. It's a very fascinating movie to watch, and it's also just a lot of fun. It gets, very gory and bloody at times, but it's almost like Tarantino gore, where you just kind of laugh it off when someone's head explodes. But it also like it really strikes at the heart of like deeper meaning, I think. And that's what I love. I love movies that are a little off kilter, that have something to say, and really surprise you. And this one was definitely a pleasant surprise. So as of right now, I think this might be my number one movie of the year.
Wow. Yeah, I remember seeing the trailers for that and just not being able to wrap my head around what I was actually even looking at. Like, why? What here is actually going to attract me to the theater to see this? It almost felt like bizarre for the sake of being bizarre, But it seems like from your review that there is something deeper here, and it's not just for the sake of the eyebrow raise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't tell from like a marketing perspective whether they did a good job or not. I mean, in the sense, like I said, I wasn't drawn to see it because of the marketing. I think I had time to kill, and maybe someone had said they liked it or something. So I went to see it for that reason. But I'm almost kind of glad that it wasn't as widely viewed, and like Sinners, where everyone's talking about it and loving it, because then it almost feels a little bit more like it's my own in a way. Like I got to discover it on my own, and I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm the most easily impressionable person, but if everyone said they love this movie, then I might feel forced to like it for that reason. And with this one, I got to kind of make up my own opinion about it before anyone else ever really got to me. And that makes me feel even more strongly towards it.
All right. So any that you are really looking forward to that kind of let you down?
So there's this small Richard Linklater movie called Blue Moon. As a theater lover, this one is Ethan Hawke, who plays Lawrence Hart, who is a writer of theater. He's written a lot of great classic Broadway shows. This is this acts as a play. Basically, it's set in Sardi's, the classic theater restaurant. It's like a theater haunt, or I'm sorry, a restaurant haunt in New York City in Times Square for theater lovers, historically speaking. So like Lawrence Hart is in this restaurant and bar, and he's kind of bemoaning the fact that his longtime collaborator Richard Rodgers just collaborated with Oscar Hammerstein in their first show together. Like we've all heard of Rodgers and Hammerstein. Mm-hmm. Their first show together was Oklahoma. So this is set at the premiere of Oklahoma. So the show is letting out, and he's already, Lawrence Hart, the former collaborator of Richard Rodgers, is kind of reminiscing in a way about like the good old days and how things used to be. And now here's his partner who's kind of superseding him and starting this new, what will ultimately become a very lucrative partnership. And he's maybe kind of left behind a little bit. He's a heavy drinker. There's a lot of that. This one I wanted to love because of the theater aspects of it. It's a talker of a movie. Like I said, it reads like a play. There's only one location. It's just all talking. Ethan Hawke, I can't decide whether his performance is excellent or terrible. It's like a reeks of desperation for me, but the character is desperate. So maybe it works. Maybe that's why. It just felt like he was just really, really like pushing for an Oscar for this. And those sorts of performances that feel a little too heavy-handed are a bit much for me, but I know a lot of people really loved his performance. but maybe it was really good because the character is desperate. I don't know. So that one was a bit of a disappointment. And I usually like movies that are, one set, one location, heavy on dialogue, as long as it's really good dialogue. But this one just kind of seemed very repetitive to me, and just kind of went on and on and on. And you have Bobby Cannavale, who's a great actor, but he basically just plays Bobby Cannavale. He's wasted in this. He's just a bartender. They could have cast anyone to do it. He had nothing to do in the movie. So it's one of those, like, it's Richard Linklater, so everyone wants to be a part of it because he's such a storied independent filmmaker. But it fell flat for me.
All right. So you had mentioned to me that there's another list, but your 170 movies list.
Yeah. When I was in my early 20s, I think I was 22, I decided I was starting to get into movies at this time. And, listening to my cousins talk about movies and friends talking about movies in college really started piquing my interest. So I thought, well, if I want to be like a movie person, then I can't call myself that and not having seen The Godfather, for example. But there's also a lot of other movies. So I kind of scoured the internet and found a bunch of different lists. I literally just Googled greatest movies of all time, and everyone has their lists. And the main basis for this was the American Film Institute's 100 greatest American films of all time list. The original from, I think it was 97. They've since re-released with some alterations to it. And then I found some other lists, including Roger Ebert's top 10 movies, favorite movies. I kind of smashed it all together. There's a lot of repeats, as you would imagine, across the list. And in the end, it ended up being 170 movies. So I decided that this was a list I was going to work through and make sure I've seen every movie by the time I turned 30. So it was a sort of 8-year odyssey. And I did reach that goal. There were some that were a little challenging to find, where I had to find them on VHS on eBay, because it's not a movie that streaming really wasn't a thing yet at this point. Aging myself now. It was some movies were never made on or put on DVD, but I made sure to do it. I like having these little projects. After this, I followed it up with seeing every Best Picture winner. So I saw 170 and I discovered some great movies that I loved, and then also some movies that I could have definitely left behind. But it was a fun experience, these 8 years, and basically it was 2 movies a month, every month, or whatever it was. And that's how I discovered Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, my favorite movie. Greatest movie of all time? No. But it's one that, if you haven't seen it, 1939, especially in the current political climate, not to turn this into a political podcast, but you see what's going on in the world, and maybe this movie helps to restore a little bit of hope that there are some good people out there who believe in the positive effects of government. So that's why I love that, and I keep going back to that movie.
Now, you mentioned that there were some that you could have definitely done without, as you were saying. There were some that were tough to find, just and some probably that you were just okay, well, I really didn't need to find this. Were there any surprises in terms of things that people said, oh, this is one of the greatest film creations, and you're just well, okay, or nah?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind, I'm actually not sure if this is even on the 170 list, but as I mentioned, I followed up that list when I finished it and watched all the Best Picture winners. And one of those movies is How Green Was My Valley from 1942, 41. And it won Best Picture. It beat Citizen Kane. And which, if you look back now, I know Citizen Kane isn't for everybody, but if you watch that movie from the lens of 1941 and the various innovations that Orson Welles created in order to make that movie, it really was an earth-shattering movie. And then you see a movie like How Green Was My Valley, which is a very kind of standard whatever movie. If I saw it kind of on its own without thinking about the film climate of the day, I probably would have thought it was fine. But then you compare it against some of these other movies that have gone on to become real classics that are on people's lists of the greatest films of all time. And this one is How Green Was My Valley, just seriously pales in comparison. So that was a real disappointment. I remember, I think I first watched it in a less than ideal setting. It was in a park. It was one of those like summer screenings. We have a lot of those in New York, and it was in a park, urban park, surrounded by traffic and a lot of noise and people like walking and around and eating and smoking. And you're like, why did they choose this movie? It's not like the best environment for that. So I felt like I was missing something. So I went back and rewatched it. And yeah, no, I was right. It wasn't a good movie. So I have like negative associations with it, but that was the biggest disappointment that always comes to mind first.
So I'll give you one movie that I won't say it's a bad movie, but it's a movie that I just can't understand why it has like such cachet and such appeal is Casablanca. Like I I catch a lot of flack for that, but I just it's fine. Like I don't understand why it's considered this, and you could probably give me a lesson on why it is, but from simply a watching and appreciating and enjoying standpoint, I consider that movie to be vastly overrated.
Yeah, no,
I feel like that's a movie that a lot of times because people have said it's one of the great American, movies, that everybody wants to agree with it,
Yeah. And if you look at these top lists, I think every list I used to compile the 170 list had the same top 3 movies in slightly different order, but it was always The Godfather, Citizen Kane, and Casablanca. And I agree with you about Casablanca. I mentioned with Begonia, I was glad to see it without kind of anyone else's influence, so I could make up my mind about it on its own. With Casablanca, like you said, its reputation precedes it. So everyone says it's one of the greatest movies, and you see it. And this is one instance where I am maybe perhaps impressionable because I'm watching it. I've seen it only a couple times. I really need to rewatch it. I think you get things with different viewings, especially if enough time has passed and you've aged a bit. But each time I have seen it, I'm bored most of the time.
Yeah.
But I'm forcing myself to like it because I'm supposed to like it.
Yeah, it's not saying the movie doesn't have moments, but it feels like most of the time I'm waiting for the moment. There's too much time where I'm just waiting.
And I think it may be another one of those movies where you really have to like watch it from the lens of 1940.
Yeah.
Now I always confuse. Citizen Kane came out, I think, in 41. Casablanca was 42. So they were around the same time. This is the golden age of Hollywood. But maybe if I knew a little bit more about what was going on in that era, it would help me appreciate it more. I'm not sure. But Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, and also oh geez, 1 second, let me see here because the name is escaping me. Claude Rains, another great actor I had to look at my poster because he's also in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Claude Rains, fantastic actor. There's a lot of great performances in that movie. I need to rewatch it and see what it is about it. Also, I'm Portuguese, and there's mention of Portugal in it, so that makes me like it a little bit. I think they're flying off to Lisbon at the end of the movie.
All right. Well, I'm glad that I'm not, on an island there. Because I've constantly gotten, whenever I give that opinion, I'm regularly accused of just looking for a hot take, and it's like, no, I just, I'm being honest with you in this moment that unlike everybody else on the planet, I don't think that it was all that great.
That's what art is.
It's fine, but
yeah. I always like to say, when it comes to art, if everyone is in universal agreement, then the artist isn't doing it right. Not everyone is supposed to like all the same things, and not everything is made for everybody. So you like what you like, you dislike what you. And my hot take. It's kind of funny switching from Casablanca to this, but I mentioned to you before this Oh, I really liked the live action Snow White that came out this year, and I don't care if I lose all credibility by saying that. I thought it was a smart movie, and it's another one where its reputation preceded it, and everyone was so hell bent on disliking it before it even came out for different reasons, for the rendering of the dwarfs, and for political reasons around Gal Gadot and what was going on in Israel and Rachel Zegler and her comments and all of that. But as a movie itself, I actually thought it was a really good movie. I like that it kind of corrected, quote unquote, some aspects of the original movie. I mean, I love the original. It's the thing that kicked off Walt Disney Studios in a way. Certainly, its feature film division, but it also is flawed. You know, it's a movie where you have this princess who has to literally lie around and wait to be kissed by a man in order to be rescued. And in this newer version, she actually rescues him. But then in addition to that, he's not a prince. He's a bandit, played by Andrew Burnap, who's a Broadway guy that I know from Broadway. He's kind of a rising star. But he also has backstory, and that's probably the thing I like most about it, is that it's not just about her. In the original animated film, you know nothing, literally nothing about this prince. And in this movie, the guy who kind of plays that prince type character, even though he's not a prince, there's a whole history there, and you get to learn it and appreciate it a little bit more. So it feels like a more well-rounded movie. And I also liked a lot of the music in it. So I don't care what anyone else says. It's a good movie.
Fair enough. This is, we have had this kind of segues into another discussion. In previous episode, we were talking about Disney resolutions, both our own, and if we were to take on the role of CEO of Disney. And one of the things that I made a social media post as well, and one of the things that was brought up was that Disney needs to stop with sequels and live action remakes and get back to making original content. And this seemed to really ruffle your feathers a little bit. So do you want to set the record straight on Disney Studios and original content that they've been putting out?
Yeah, and it's not just this one person's random comment, because I think we hear about this a lot. There's this misconception.
I think that it's representative of a larger sentiment.
That all Disney does now is sequels and live action remakes, and it's just not true at all. I mean, yes, they do it, but I have the list right in front of me. I had to look it up.
Of course, there's a list.
There's a list always. In the last 5 years, 4 of Walt Disney Animation Studios' 6 movies were all original movies. Ryan the Last Dragon, Encanto, which of course was a smash hit, Strange World, Wish, and then they also have the upcoming Hexed. Now, most of these movies bombed in the box office. People didn't like them. They didn't go see them. But I think a lot of these same people who are complaining that there are no original movies. Well, you're not seeing them. And if you don't like them, then you don't like them. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that they're not original movies that are being produced. One thing I will say is the leadership at Walt Disney Animation Studios has recently changed. Now Jared Bush, who's behind Zootopia and some other movies, has replaced Jennifer Lee. And so I do expect in the next few years we're going to see a shift in maybe the kinds or quality of movies that we see. So maybe, give it some time and things will course correct. But that's just Walt Disney Animation Studios. With Pixar is actually more known to make sequels, and I'm a numbers person too, so I have some numbers for you, Chris, and everyone listening. Okay. For Walt Disney Animation Studios to date has made 64 feature films. Less than 8% of them are sequels. The only sequels they've made are The Rescuers Down Under, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then the last 3 are more recent, quote unquote recent: Frozen 2, Moana 2, and Zootopia 2. Before Frozen 2, which is now a while ago, there was a huge stretch of time when there were just no sequels at all. if you look at Pixar, it's more like 31% of their movies are sequels out of 29 features they've had. But since 2020, they've had a bunch of originals. Elio, Elemental, Lightyear, Turning Red, Luca, Soul, Onward. Again, a lot of these were flops. This is Pixar kind of deviating from the type of movie that we grew to love with Pixar, the Toy Stories, the Cocos, the ones that have like real emotional depth to them. Not that these don't, but they don't hit in the same way. But maybe we're in this bit of a dip in terms of quality of movies between Pixar and Walt Disney Animation Studios. But that always happens. There was in the early 2000s, Disney went through the same thing. They had a whole slew of, Atlantis, Dinosaur, Brother Bear, which I think is a highly underrated movie, but it's not at the top of anyone's favorite list, it seems. It always comes back. It's, the pendulum swings, and I think we just need to give it a little bit of time. Also, for people who bemoan live action remakes and saying, this isn't the Snow White I want to see, or the Cinderella.
Right.
Here's a little secret for you. Those original movies that you love, they still exist, and they are the ones that you can watch if you want to watch them. You don't have to watch the live action ones. There's different reasons those exist, predominantly financial. Disney knows its IP that people know and love, and they want to make some extra bucks. But also from a marketing perspective, I do think it is a smart idea because it's helping to introduce new audiences to a movie. If you, as a parent, loved The Little Mermaid growing up, but maybe you don't want to show that to your young daughter because there's some problematic elements to it, you can see the new Little Mermaid and kind of bond over that. And then it kind of rolls the younger generation into the fandom, if you will. So I think that's also a big part of it. And also it gives this is the wokeness in me, I suppose, but it gives the opportunity for Disney to correct some flaws from previous movies and depicts particularly women and men in maybe a more favorable light, one that's maybe more empowering for women. So that, like I said, with Snow White, they don't have to just lie around and wait to be kissed, that they are the ones who can do the rescuing and that they are strong, independent beings. You don't get that with a lot of the classic films. You get to some degree. But then even when that does happen, when there is that independence and that intrepidness that you see from a princess, for example, it seems to be undercut by some other moment that happens where she has to be rescued. And some of that is corrected in these remakes. So I appreciate them, whether you like them or not. I appreciate them. Some of them I really like, and some of them are very lucrative and do really well. Some of them flop for different reasons, but I still look forward to them every time they come out. Yeah.
I'm gonna say sometimes I think too, movies, and now Encanto ended up doing great, but a lot of times I feel like Disney doesn't know how to market its own products too. I feel like that was a problem with Raya. I think that Raya is an underrated movie.
Yeah,
Encanto was during the time when Encanto came out was kind of weird, generally, nationally and internationally. But in that case, like the first time that I saw any marketing mention of Encanto was in a Tide commercial. Like it was in and without having any context as to who these people were and the whole thing with the gifts, like I had no idea of what any of that was. And so then like this person like has a rain cloud over them and they're trying to dry their clothes or something like that. I was just like, what the hell, what's going on here? So I feel like Disney sometimes, even if they have a really good idea, or Pixar, they don't know how to present it to people to get them to want to come into the theater. There have been some films that I've really enjoyed that I feel like more people would have enjoyed them if they actually took the time to consume them, but it hasn't been put in front of them in a way that has made them want to do that.
Yeah, I remember growing up during this like resurgence in the Disney film. It was back to back: Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, Pocahontas, all those movies. And every year every 1 to 2 years there was a new movie, and one thing you can always count on was that marketing blitz, where the McDonald's Happy Meal toy was always related to that movie. You'd walk into like Walmart or whatever, and they would have whole sections dedicated to the movie, and it was just everywhere. And I'm either it doesn't exist anymore to that extent, or I'm just not noticing it, maybe because I'm an adult. But I remember you were fully immersed back in those days, in the early to mid 90s or so, in whatever the release was that year. So before you even saw it, you knew who the characters were, you knew the music, and all of that gave you reason to go to the theater to see the movie. It's almost like the marketing overshadowed the movie. Marketing is not cheap, and the film environment, especially with streaming these days, is so much more saturated than ever was. So it's harder to get kind of the word out. But it's not impossible. Like we've seen this with Barbie a few years ago. Wicked, of course, had the huge marketing blitz. Even a smaller A24 movie, big for A24's purpose, but like Marty Supreme, which is a movie I'm yet to see. They've been engaging in this huge marketing blitz. So I think a lot of it does play into the marketing, and we're not seeing that as much for Disney as maybe we once were. Or maybe it's they do have a lot of it. It's just they've set their own standard, and now they're not reaching the standard that they once had.
Right.
Maybe by other movies' perspectives they are, but...
An interesting thing too is we come from a little bit of an era where like they put the movie out on VHS, and then beforehand you'd have the preview of the next movie. Like I can't remember which movie it was. I don't remember the order exactly. It may have been Aladdin, but when you stuck that in the VCR, the first thing before there was anything else was the trailer was just the opening scene of The Lion King, and you were just like, I've got to see this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
That doesn't exist anymore. Even with DVDs, like you don't have like, the previews beforehand. You're not going through the tape the way you were with the VCR. So so I think that they were able to kind of embed it in the products that they were putting in front of people too.
It's true. They'll come out with like teasers like a year out sometimes, but it's not the same thing. It's like when you physically own that plastic clamshell VHS, tape, and you're rewatching it over and over and over again. You're right. I completely forgot about that, but you're right. You're going to be watching that opening scene or that teaser for whatever next year's movie is repeatedly. You can rewatch the same movie a million times on Disney Plus. Like Moana became a huge hit more because of its Disney Plus presence than its theatrical presence, but it's not preceded by like a trailer, for example. So you're right. I think there is something missing there, but this also could be just us in our old age, being a little too nostalgic. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So we're running long, but I did want to see if there was anything that in 2026 you're really looking forward to that you'll be able to add to your 2026 loving it list.
Yeah, I'm very curious about Toy Story 5. It was the perfect trilogy. Toy Story 4 did not need to exist. I don't think it ruins the trilogy, but it was not a good movie. Toy Story 5, I love the premise of toys meet tech. I'm also a huge Conan O'Brien fan, and he has a part in this movie. So I'm cautiously optimistic and very curious to see what's going on with this one.
My question with that is how is Woody reintroduced into this? Because is there going to be like this leap in logic that is just, I know it's an animated movie, so, logic about talking toys, but at some point, there's only so much suspension of disbelief, Yeah, and
absolutely.
I feel like it's really going to test that.
Yeah, I think they'll explain it. I mean, the teasers that we've seen so far, he's just there. So we don't see how it happens, but I think we're going to see how it happens. My fear is that they might rush through, like, however it is he makes his way back to the other toys. Like the first 5 minutes, they might just do something kind of willy-nilly just to bring him back into that environment, and that would feel a little cheap to me. So hopefully they integrate that story a little bit more deeply. But I'm very curious about this one. The Odyssey, of course, is probably the big movie to watch for next year. Christopher Nolan's epic. And then the last one I'll leave you with is The Social Reckoning, which is the follow-up to The Social Network. Aaron Sorkin wrote and won the Oscar for writing the first movie. David Fincher directed it. Sorkin is both writing and directing this new one, and Jeremy Armstrong is playing Mark Zuckerberg. So we have a casting change there. But being a social media marketing guy, I'm very curious to see this. That was a movie, The Social Network, when it came out many years ago. Everyone was saying, why do I want to see a movie about Facebook? That sounds stupid. And I thought that sounded like an excellent thing, being immersed in it and seeing what it do, the positive and negative effects of Facebook on society. And this one is taking another real world situation that happened in years past and bringing it to light on the big screen. So I'm really excited to see this. I also love Aaron Sorkin, so we'll see what he does with it.
All right. Well, Dan, thank you very much for taking the time with me. I'm really glad we were able to make the schedules work. This is a crazy time of year, and so thanks very much. And any parting shots that you'd like to take, or anything before we say goodbye?
Just excited for another movie going year. It's shout out to the theaters. I know they're working hard. Everyone. Streaming is great, sure, but take some time to go out to the theater, support it. It needs its help. It needs help.
All right. Hey, thanks very much, and Happy New Year, Dan.
Likewise. Thank you.
Well, Dan and I talked about some Disney and some changes that are happening at the parks this year, and no one would know more about what is happening with those changes and when they're happening and how they might impact your trip than We Do Travel Right. That's because We Do Travel Right has the experts. They have the one-on-one service of an agent, but an agent with a team behind you, making sure that you are able to have the best possible vacation that you possibly can. And the best part about using services like We Do Travel Right is they are free. That's right. You don't pay anything extra, whether you are going to Disney or Universal or on a cruise or to an all-inclusive. Those places all build the use of an agent into their pricing. So you're paying for the agent already. So doesn't it just make sense to use the agent? And if you're not convinced after listening to me talk about We Do Travel Right, tune into our next episode where we will have Emily, the owner and founder of We Do Travel Right, talking about the Disney Destiny. And that is one of the other great things about We Do Travel Right is they do not give you any information or give you any suggestions on anything that their team has not experienced already. So if you are interested in getting your next magical vacation started today, go to wedotravelright.com/Maza. That's wedotravelright.com/MAZA. Well, and that'll put a bow on this episode of the Maza's Musings podcast. Thanks for joining me, and I really appreciate all the support you gave us over the past year, and I look forward to connecting with more and more of you moving forward. And we have a new way that you can connect with us, and that is the Musin Place. That's the Maza's Musings Facebook community. You can go straight to the Maza's Musings podcast on Facebook, and you can find the link to that. You can join the group, and while we're there, the whole idea is just making more robust conversation, finding a place where we can not only connect the podcast with listeners, but connect the listeners together too, and to create some more conversation. And it's a great way that for you guys to tell me what you are liking, what you're not liking, to discuss things that we've talked about in the episode in a more natural kind of setting. And yeah, it's just another way that we can all have a little bit of fun. If you're into the more traditional ways, I just mentioned Facebook, but we're also on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter, X, at Maza's Musings Pod. We're also on TikTok at Maza's Musings Podcast. And we also have Blue Sky and a YouTube page. So don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And you can find all of this information and more by going to mazasmusings.wordpress.com. That's our website. And there you'll find past episodes, more information about me and this podcast, links to all of those different social media outlets, and you'll also find how you can subscribe to our newsletter. Now, the newsletter comes out once a week in your inbox, and it will have information on things that are coming up, things you might have missed, news and announcements that we think you'd find interesting, and even shout outs for other podcasts. And also, occasionally, we'll find the sweepstakes that we'll let you know about. Basically, anything that I might find interesting, I figure you probably would too. So I try to throw that in whenever I find it. Speaking of finding things, the best way that you can help people find this podcast and help this community that I've been talking about grow is word of mouth. Letting your friends know, letting your family know that you're listening to this great podcast. And yeah, the other way would be to leave a rating or review on your favorite podcatcher, because doing that bumps us up in those algorithms and makes us easier to find. So more people will see the podcast, say, hey, this sounds interesting, and give it a listen, and hopefully join the community. And if you are looking to bump up your support just a little bit, you can always go to the website and you'll find how to buy us a blue milk. And buying us a blue milk is just a small, obligation-free way to help us with the small costs that go into putting this podcast together. And whether you are listening for the first time or buying us blue milk, we appreciate it all. And as always, I hope you have a great weekend, a great week, and a great 2026.